7 Dragon Balls were forged and scattered over the face of the planet. Once united, the Eternal Dragon will be called forth to grant the discoverer a single wish.
Some have called them the greatest MacGuffin of Akira Toriyama's career, the Dragon Balls. The 7 magic balls that will grant you anything you want, and this episode of Dragon Ball In Depth is all about the Dragon Balls, their origin, their rules, their limitations, and their plot holes.
この放送はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
The first mention of the Dragon Balls and what they can do is obviously in the first chapter of the manga and first episode of the anime when Son Goku meets Bulma and thus the plot begins. Gather up all 7 Dragon Balls, summon the Eternal Dragon Shenlong, and he will grant any single wish. More on that later. We get our first plot hole early in the series because we are told that once the dragon has been summoned, that the Dragon Balls become regular stones for 1 year. However, the gap in time in between that summoning and when Goku goes searching for the 4-star Dragon Ball at the start of the Red Ribbon Army saga is only 8 months. Keep in mind that the Dragon Radar cannot detect the balls when they aren't active. In Dragon Ball Episode 33, Roshi tells Lunch and Krillin the legend of the Dragon Balls and claimed that in the beginning there was 1 large Dragon Ball that later broke off into 7 balls when a band of thieves threatened to steal it from a village. Obviously, Roshi either made it up or this story was completely fabricated throughout time, but in reality, it was Toei making up stuff, assuming that Toriyama would never explain it. This is a good example of anime-only filler that will confuse you, but pay it no mind. It's pretty much a plot hole. It is not until much deeper into the series that Toriyama got around to explaining the true origins of the Dragon Balls. Later in the series, Demon King Piccolo gathers up all 7 Dragon Balls and wishes for himself to be young. Once Shenlong grants the wish, Piccolo literally destroys the dragon. After Goku vanquished Demon King Piccolo, he couldn't wish his dead friends back to life, so Master Karin tells Goku that the Dragon Balls were created by God, or Kami-sama, and he suggests that he meet God and ask God to make a new dragon. Once Goku met Kami, he obliged and thus new Dragon Balls were formed. Kami reactivated the Dragon Balls immediately and actually waived the 1-year rule for Goku because he was technically creating a new dragon. The same rule must apply to God himself because later in the series when Kami comes back to life during the Namek arc, the Dragon Balls are reactivated even though it had only been a few weeks in the story since they were used to bring Goku back. So I suppose that's plot hole number 2, but I'm sure there's a few more in there as well, but we'll get to it when we get to it. At the end of the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, after defeating Demon King Piccolo's reincarnation, Piccolo Jr., Goku reveals that the Dragon Balls are linked with Kami, therefore if Kami dies, the Dragon Balls will disappear, and as a result, Goku chooses not to kill Piccolo because he knows that Piccolo is also linked to Kami, so if Piccolo dies, Kami dies too, and will take the Dragon Balls with him. It's not until the climax of the next story arc that we find out the true origins of the Dragon Balls. When Vegeta and Nappa first lay their eyes on Piccolo, they immediately recognize him as a Namek Seijin, a native to a planet Namek. Vegeta remarks that Namekians are known to have very strange skills, and this is why Kami naturally knew how to create Dragon Balls. We find out that when Piccolo and Kami were one being, that being was sent to Earth during a time when planet Namek was dealing with extremely harsh weather anomalies, harsh enough to kill many Namekians. I will probably address the history of Piccolo and Kami in more detail in a future video. Once it is decided by the Z Fighters to actually go to Namek in hopes of reviving the fallen comrades that were killed by Nappa, we are introduced to the giant-sized Namekian Dragon Balls and to the Grand Elder of Namek, who created the Dragon Balls and is one of the only survivors of the bad weather. We also find out that the Namekian Dragon Balls can grant 3 wishes. The other fascinating thing about the Namekian Dragon Porunga is that when you speak your wish to him, it must be spoken in Namekian, although he replies back to you in Japanese or English or whatever language the viewers watching Dragon Ball Z in. That does beg the question, how old are the Namekian Dragon Balls? How long have the Namekians had this ability? At the very end of the Buu Saga in chapter 509, we find out from old Supreme Kaioshin that he warned the Namekians against using the Dragon Balls. This event had to have taken place before his imprisonment in the Z-Sword. Therefore, these events happened roughly over 70 million years before the series began. So yeah, the Dragon Balls are old as hell. I do wonder what wishes were made throughout all that time. When we are first introduced to the Dragon Balls, and pretty much for the entirety of the pre-DBZ Dragon Ball, we're constantly told that the dragon can grant any wish as long as it's only one with no limitations. By the time we got to the arrival of Radix and the transition between Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z in the anime, Toriyama had to add rules and restrictions to the Dragon Balls in order to maintain a tone and a sense of dread for the more serious moments of the series. When Radix kidnaps Gohan, Roshi and Krillin both offer to help with the idea that if they die, they can just be wished back with the Dragon Balls, but Goku tells them to stay out of the fight because he was told by Kami years ago that the dragon cannot grant the same wish twice, and since they already died before, they could not be brought back if they died again. Many fans, of course, think the rule only applies to resurrections, but Goku himself says any wish cannot be granted twice. In Toriyama's eyes, he didn't want to make it easy for the characters to just die and be wished back an infinite amount of times, and thus these rules were put in place. Later on, we find out another limitation. When the dragon is summoned by Roshi to resurrect Goku, Oolong interrupts and asks the dragon to kill Nappa and Vegeta, and the dragon says that he cannot do that because his power is linked to the power of his creator, which is Kami, and he cannot grant a wish that goes beyond the power of his creator. Therefore, because Nappa and Vegeta were much stronger than Kami, the dragon's hands were tied. In this case, I suppose the best explanation is that he cannot kill any being stronger than its creator. However, it can wish them back to life because, well, other than Goku after the Cell game, who doesn't want to be brought back? But again, more on that later. Another example of this is when they were making the wishes on Earth after the Namek arc. Porunga was asked by Bulma and Dende to transport Goku to Earth, and Goku flat out refused to be brought back. Goku must be so much more powerful than Porunga that even positive wishes can be refused. But that does beg the question, does the dragon ask Goku telepathically? Does Goku just know subconsciously? Same goes for when Shenlong is asked to turn 17 and 18 into humans again, and he states that their power greatly surpasses his, although Shenlong is still able to remove the explosives from their body because it does not directly affect the power gap. We're not given clear rules on this, it just seems to be a convenience thing. Also, when Porunga resurrects Krillin after he was blown to bits by Frieza, he states that he will put his body back together as a special favor. Of course, those of you who have seen Resurrection F or read about it know that Shenlong didn't want to do Sorbin any favors, even close to that. One of the biggest misconceptions of the power of the Dragon Balls is that many fans believe that they can only wish people back to life who die within 1 year. This is a very common and very understandable misconception. You constantly see this rule out there, but it's not necessarily the case. The fact is, that rule only applies for large groups of people. During the telepathic conversation between Kami and Kaio, Kami states the following: "If you intend to bring back to life all of the aliens killed in the past by Vegeta and Nappa, that would be possible too, but it would only be effective for those who died within 1 year." This is the only time that the year limit on resurrections is mentioned in Dragon Ball. Now, during these very same episodes, we find out that the Dragon Balls can also not bring back to life individuals who have died of natural causes. However, if the person's lifespan was shortened due to the emotional stress from coming into contact with a truly evil person, they can be brought back, but only for the amount of time that they had left to live. Also, the Namekian Dragon Balls can only revive one person at a time, but they can revive the same person more than once, as well as grant the same wish more than once. Another limitation that many fans have asked about throughout the years is how much time someone has to actually make a wish. Will the dragon just stay there forever, waiting for someone to make a wish? Daizenshuu 7 reveals that once the dragon is summoned, if you wait too long to make a wish, the balls will scatter and the dragon will go away. This has never really happened in the series as of yet, but if it did happen, would it reset the clock 1 year? Is this what happened in Battle of Gods when they summoned the dragon? The world may never know. Now, let's talk a bit about Dende and Muri's Dragon Balls. Dende would become the new god of Earth once Kami fused with Piccolo, and of course, Muri would take over when the old Grand Elder of Namek transferred his abilities to him before he finally passed away. Muri's Namekian Dragon Balls are not seen until deep into the Buu arc. With Muri's upgrade, Porunga has even less limitations and can now revive large groups at once, much like the Earth Balls. That's literally the only change. Dende's, however, are quite a bit confusing. Before the Cell games began, Dende brings back the Earth Dragon Balls and immediately makes some adjustments. Dende tells the group he has the ability to make his balls grant 3 wishes like the ones on Namek. Piccolo asked Dende if he could bring back a large group of people due to the deaths caused by Cell. Dende states that he can do it, but you're down to 2 wishes. The majority of people assume that this means Dende's dragon will always be limited by 2. But then in the Buu saga, things get confusing. Bulma gathers the Dragon Balls to resurrect the people who were killed by Majin Vegeta. Goku tries to stop her from making this wish because she is unaware that more people were gonna die due to Majin Buu being released, but he's too late. Dende then tells Goku to tell the dragon that they don't need the remaining 2 wishes. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 wishes. Dende then says that the balls will revive in 4 months as opposed to 12. So now it's established that the dragon can grant 3 wishes, but if you only use a third of the wishes, the Dragon Balls will come back a third of the time, hence 4 months. But then it gets even more confusing during a conversation between Goku, Bulma, and Piccolo, while Buu is rampaging throughout the city and Bulma's concerned for her city and her family. Goku tells Bulma that they still have 2 wishes left, but Piccolo states that because they wish back a large number of people with the first wish, that brings the wishes down to 1. So, wait a minute. The Dragon Balls are supposed to have 3 wishes, but if you bring back a large number of people, that eats up 2 of the 3 wishes? What the hell, Dende? I guess it makes sense to what Dende kind of said in the Cell arc. But at the end of the manga, the narrator says the dragon was revived in 6 months. Get it together, Toriyama. See what I mean, folks, about fighting over canon? The damn canon doesn't even make sense. Then when you talk about Battle of Gods, it gets even more confusing. Most fans assume that when the dragon was summoned by Goku and asked about the god legend, that it did count as a wish, even though it was just a question and requires no real magic from the dragon, just knowledge. We are also told throughout the movie that Pilaf and his cohorts were able to at some point use the Dragon Balls to wish themselves younger. But what about the other 2 or 3 wishes? Did each one of them becoming young count as 1 wish per person? But then in Revival of F, the dragon grants 2 wishes, 1 to Sorbet and 1 to Pilaf. So, does reviving Frieza count as 2 wishes? Or does reviving Frieza and bringing back his parts count as wishes 1 and 2? I have a headache. But oh no, my headache isn't going away just yet. Because we gotta talk GT. In GT, we are introduced to a new set of Dragon Balls, the Black Star Dragon Balls, which were never mentioned whatsoever, not even a little bit, in any of the material until episode 1 of GT aired. So, we find out that the Black Star Balls were created by the original Namekian that was made up of Piccolo and Kami. So at some point before becoming God, he created the most powerful set of balls ever. We find out that once Piccolo and Kami refused in the Cell Saga, the balls were reactivated inside of Kami's lookout. Anyways, these balls are so powerful that once a wish is granted, the balls shoot out into space, and if they aren't collected within a year, the Earth will somehow explode. The balls remain active, so you don't have to wait a year for another wish to be made, but you better hurry up and get them. Baby uses the balls again once they are gathered to wish for a new planet Sufuru. But for some reason that cannot be explained other than it being a major plot hole, the countdown timer to the Earth's destruction does not reset and the Earth blows up anyway. Once they were gathered, shouldn't they have another year? This is why Piccolo decides to die with the Earth to prevent them from ever coming back. What about when Kid Buu blew up the Earth? You know what? I don't blame Piccolo for dying with the Earth. Anything to get away from GT. No, I'm just kidding. But then we get another plot twist literally out of nowhere. We find out that anytime the Dragon Balls on Earth are used, their plus energy decreases and their minus energy increases. Sort of like positive and negative energy. So we find out from the GT guidebook that the only way to balance out the energy after use of the Dragon Balls is to wait 100 years to use the Dragon Balls again. So as a result, the negative energy manifests into 7 dragons who must be stopped. I think I need a Tylenol at this point. So after going through all of that, many questions can be asked. Why can Dende and Muri power up the balls more than their predecessors? Couldn't Kami just adjust the Dragon Balls to grant 3 wishes whenever he wanted? Is it because Dende is more powerful than Kami? In the Namek Saga, Dende did receive a power upgrade from the Grand Elder when he unlocked his hidden potential. Had the Grand Elder done that to Kami, would that have increased his ability to create more versatile Dragon Balls? Are there other Namekians in other planets or universes that have their own set of Dragon Balls, or other beings, for that matter, that can create something similar to a Dragon Ball? Again, the world may never know. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch your ass down the road.